Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tabakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shingam Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadishare Jayo Jagadishare Jayo Jagadishare. Welcome everyone. Look at this, a beautiful crowd of people already all lined up on this very auspicious day of Holi. How was it, everybody? A little crazy? Gets a little crazy. Sometimes the true spirit of the day is really not there, I'll be honest. It's really a beautiful thing. Sometimes it is there, and when it is, it's very nice. It's a festival in Vrindavan with Radha and Krishna and the gopis, and it's kind of sharing their love like this. Sometimes it turns into more like a college frat party wildness, but there is something very beautiful in it. But we are here for Q&A tonight. Questions and answers. And we have a question already. Yeah, honestly, Holi is spoken about in some of the sacred texts. It's not in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, which is really the text that I study when it comes to understanding Radha and Krishna's Leelas. But there's so many. Let's just talk about what Leela is. We'll open it up. So the question was, can I speak about Holi? What do we do? What is the characteristic of the self in its perfection? In other words, when we're free, when we're no longer bound by false conceptions of what we need to be happy in this world, or false conceptions of who we are. Am I a man? Am I a woman? Am I black? Am I white? Am I Indian? Am I American? This, that, so many different things. Am I human? Am I an animal? Am I a plant? We go through so many different bodies and we take on different identities, right? These identities, sometimes we might say, okay, I get it. I'm not the body. But we may have trouble realizing we're not the mind. But yoga means going into that, really understanding that the mind is something separate from me. I'm a person that operates in this world through a mind, which is a very subtle instrument, composed of very subtle energy that is just like a computer. I use this mind to take in data, comes in, just like there's a camera that brings in visual data. There's a microphone that brings in audio data. There's a touchpad, and so on, and these other special senses. They bring in data. That data gets transferred to the mind and processed there and then stored there. And then I can draw on those files and then communicate with the world through. But it's all a computer, it's not me. But we tend to feel it's me. I'm happy, I'm sad, right? But that's the mind that's happy now and sad later. It's the mind going through these ups and downs, and we're behind that, beneath that, seeing through that, right? Our consciousness, in a sense, becomes warped going through that mind that's programmed, programmed by different experiences that we have. Welcome, Maharaj. So good to have you here. That's our existence in this world, commonly. I just want to make sure you're with me, the question asker. You're with me? Okay. I know you have to take care of things. So that's what material consciousness looks like. That's the self when it's bound, right? As soon as we're bound to the mind and to the body, we're bound to happiness, to stress, excitement, boredom, elation, depression. If we think I'm the mind, then we're tied to all of that and we're bound to all of that. And our true nature, which is so far beyond that, we don't experience it. We're out of touch with it. Excuse me. But what does it look like when the self is no longer bound, when it's free? There are different conceptions. Okay, one conception, and there's truth in it, is that one can achieve a state kind of like neutrality, where I'm no longer bound by these confusing, illusory potency of this world, and I kind of feel my own blissful nature in a state of peace. Just feel peace. They call this moksha. Have you heard that term before? Moksha or mukti. A lot of philosophers think that that's the highest goal. But then there was like a whole nother trend that went deeper into these ancient texts and said, that's true, that's real. The self can achieve that goal. But there's something more. And if you look deeper into these texts, you'll see it. And that's divine love, right? Divine love is the ultimate, the real self. If you churn it down still further, you get to this love. And that love is, they're saying that existence is like a tree. And there's so many leaves on the tree, and that's like all of us. But there's one central root that nourishes and sustains and vitalizes every leaf, and that's God. And that God is the perfect object of love. Whatever we love in any one is a manifestation of the potency, the energy, the heart of that supreme being. And all that we see is his own creative brilliance manifesting in so many ways. We may take it and warp it in different ways. But if you really look what he's created, it's beautiful. Right? So when we love that perfect object, we're like the leaf connected to the tree. We tend to disconnect ourselves from the root. But when we're connected, we have that vitality. And then we're not confused. Then we're free. But what does it look like? What does that love look like in freedom? And there's that, these sages, they comb through these ancient texts to really understand it. And they say there's different kind of platforms that one may exist on. Different varieties of love. One way to love God, and this is maybe the most common conception of loving God, like that we see in all the different traditions, is that we love God with reverence. How can we not be reverent? God is so great. God is so powerful. In one sense, he's enormous. The Vedic scriptures describe that the unlimited universes are emanating from the pores of his body. So he's the biggest. At the same time, he's the smallest. It said that he enters into every atom within all existence. How can you not be reverential? You are beyond everything. I'm dependent on you. This is a really important, there's a very important verse that goes back to the Upanishads. Have you heard of Upanishads? The ancient books of wisdom. It says, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. Amongst, Nitya means eternal. Amongst the many eternal beings, all of us, there's one eternal being. Nityo Nityanam. Chaitanas Chaitananam. Amongst the unlimited conscious beings, there's one conscious being. Eko Bahunam Yo Vididati Kaman. The many are dependent on the one. So we're like God in that we're conscious. We're like God in that we're eternal. But there's a distinction, is that we are eternally dependent and sustained and supported and nourished, vitalized by God, and not the other way around. And that's something that we can feel good about, actually. It's not a problem at all. It's actually a very perfect situation to be in. And so every living being has the potential, has within them this love. And through the practices of bhakti, through the chanting, through the discussions and the sangha, through the prasadam that they'll serve out here, through chanting these names, through meditations like doing puja to the forms of God and so on, this love that's in us all can be awakened. But how does it play out? It may play out in the form of reverential love. And there are places in the spiritual realm where you can express that love fully, full freedom. But it's also described that there are places or there's an environment wherein you can love God not with reverence, but with intimacy. Okay, with intimacy. And some of these texts, they go into deep detail about this. And it's said that intimacy is what God loves the most. I was using this analogy the other day. Imagine you have a high court judge. When he goes into the courtroom, he's a big, important... Actually, every single person in the courtroom recognizes he's got the power, right? If someone in the audience starts getting out of control or speaking out of line, the judge just has to say, remove him from the court. If one of the lawyers misbehaves, I hold you in contempt of the court. Take him away. If someone in the jury acts up, remove him from the jury, right? He's got the power. And everybody recognizes that power, respects that power. And how do they refer to him? Huh? Your Honor. They say, everybody, Your Honor this, Your Honor that. Nobody calls him by his first name. Nobody calls him by his nickname, right? But when he goes home, when he opens up the door and walks in the front door and his wife sees him, does she say, Your Honor? What does she say? Hi, honey. Hi, sweetheart. How was your day? So she speaks to him in an intimate love. Not the honor and reverence. Now, when he's in the courtroom, he appreciates that respect. But what moves him, right? It's when he goes home and that intimate love, that's what he lives for. So there are sacred texts and great saints that found these teachings in this vast body of sacred texts. Say, look, this is what moves God. He appreciates the reverence, but what really moves him is his intimate love. And so then we see a picture, and there's a whole vast body of Vedic literature, and it kind of like evolves. It goes in different stages, but when it gets to the top stage, it's a text called the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, 18,000 verses. And of those 18,000, that's called the cream of all the Vedic literature. If you churned all the Vedic literature till you got cream, it would be this text, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. But then if you took that Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and you churned it again, it got to the deeper, thicker essence, it would be the 10th canto of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. It's 90 chapters. And those 90 chapters are all about the life of Krishna. And if you churn that again, and got really to the thickest stuff, you have Krishna and his pastimes with his lovers, with the gopis. Well, there, they don't see him as God, all-powerful, creating the universes and all that. They love him intimately. And it's said that this intimate love, sometimes when you really love someone, it's not just their submission that excites your love. Sometimes when they're a little sassy with you, you understand? Sometimes that really, you really appreciate that. It really, and it says that these girls are like that. There's constantly banter going on between Krishna and the gopis and so on. There's a famous pastime where these girls are all part of the cowherd communities. Krishna's family is taking care of the cows, and all the girls' families are taking care of the cows. And one day the girls, there were some brahmanas. They were doing some beautiful ceremonies, yagnas. Have you ever seen where they have the fire and they're offering the ghee and grains into the fire? It's a beautiful way of connecting with God and through these mantras and these offerings. And these brahmanas they're really very refined gentlemen, deeply spiritual, and so the girls, they have all this ghee and other ingredients for this ritual, and they put the pots on their head, and they're walking together, these beautiful, stunningly beautiful, sweet-hearted girls, and they have to come to this point. They're bringing the ghee and all this stuff for this very beautiful purpose. They're happy. We're singing our songs. We're walking with the pots on our head. But then they have to come through this tight little area because it's mountainous in this area. And sometimes there's one spot that to get through, either you have to go the whole way around, which takes forever, or you got to go through this tight little spot. And right at that spot is where Krishna waits for all these girls. And he stops them. And what do you think he says to them? He says, you girls are going with all this ghee. But all that ghee comes from the milk of my cows. You know, I'm the king of Vrindavan. Don't you know that? You think you can just take all these goods and market them on your own and walk around here without paying any tax? You have to pay some tax. The girls are like, this Krishna, what is he talking about? We don't pay tax to you. You should be paying tax to us. Radharani is the queen of Vrindavan. You know, you think you can pass some law about tax? Who are you kidding? And then all of this. Now, sometimes you ever hear like this when the little girl, she goes to school and some boy is picking on her, calling her names. And then they say, that's because he likes you. So they're insulting each other and making fun of each other and teasing each other. They're trying to cover the deep, intense love that they have for each other. And it's coming out in this way. But as they do it, it's just stirring their love more and more and more. Okay? So there's many pastimes where they're engaged in this kind of fun. And Holi is one of those pastimes. Right? Holi is one of those pastimes where they're throwing colors on each other. It looks like they're battling with each other. But actually, it's a way that they're expressing their love. So there's this is really considered, again, the cream of the cream of the cream of all the wisdom of the yoga tradition. It doesn't always play out that way on the streets. Sometimes it's people that aren't really connected to those feelings. But sometimes it's done in very beautiful ways where that feeling is there. But that's the meaning of it goes back to this is considered the yogic consciousness at its very peak. Divine love expressed with great intimacy, a beautiful love being expressed through fun. That's Holi. Thank you. It's a good question. Appreciate that. Yes. Satnam.
Hare Krishna. Could you explain the soul's journey after a person passes back to Godhead and into birth again?
Those sounded like two different possible directions, right? So sometimes I like to use this example. Did you ever see the film Groundhog Day? Who has seen Groundhog Day? Who has not seen Groundhog Day? You know about the plot. It's a famous movie, right? I'll give you a very brief summary of the story. It's about a man who is he's not such a nice man. He's arrogant. He's conceited. He's insensitive to others. He's lusty, and he has to go. He was on a news team for like a television like news team. And they go off to some secluded town to report on some event. And there's one woman that's on the news team that's his romantic interest, but she's not at all interested in him. He may be a handsome man, but he's so arrogant and so conceited and so insensitive. She has no interest in him. And despite his efforts, she rejects all of his advances. But something weird happens where he finds that every morning that he wakes up, the same day starts to repeat. All the same things happen every day. In other words, from the very moment that the alarm clock goes off, it's like one of those radio clock alarms and it plays some music and it's the same song. And then the person on the radio says the same things. He's like, what's happening? Every day, I'm repeating day after day after day. And it's very confusing. And at first, when he realizes I'm stuck in this cycle, he starts to use it, tries to exploit his knowledge of what's going to happen to his nefarious means. He tries to use it to impress this girl. He tries to use it in different ways. Still, he doesn't succeed in seducing this woman. And after days and days of this going on, he begins to give up on that. He becomes tired of it. And gradually, he begins to see all his efforts to enjoy this world end in suffering or end in failure. And when he becomes exhausted of that, occasionally he does something almost by chance. He does something out of kindness. And then he gets a little bit of an intuition that life is nicer when I'm kind. And then he begins to let go of his own selfishness and think about the welfare of other people. And in this way, he starts to evolve. But still, every day is repeating, and every day is repeating. Now he starts using his knowledge of the repetition to actually help other people. And he becomes such a nice person eventually that this woman, he actually gives up on the idea of just seducing her. And he actually just begins to act out of kindness to her without any other motive. And it's then that she begins to appreciate him and her heart opens up to him. And that's kind of like his evolution. And then the next morning he wakes up and it's no longer the same day. It's a new day, right? So he was trapped in a cycle that's going to repeat and repeat and repeat until he evolves. And then he can move on. And in a sense, the yogis are saying that that's what our world is like. It's either we evolve or we repeat. If we evolve entirely, we don't have to repeat life, birth and death, birth and death, birth and death in this world again and again and again. But if we haven't fully evolved, if we haven't came to the point where we've lost all our selfishness, all of our arrogance, all of our lust, all of our greed, and what's opened up in us is the pure nature of the self, right? Which is selfless, which is designed for love. When that awakens in us, we no longer have to come back and repeat again and again and again. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Interesting idea? Could it be possible that we're going around taking birth again and again until we learn our lessons? Raise your hand if you think, maybe. Okay, some of you people think, no way. Or maybe you're just not listening. That's okay too. This is the idea. Now, Bhagavad Gītā has this statement, Bhagavad Gītā. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajan yante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kauntaya sarat tad bhava bhavataha. That whatever one remembers when they die, wherever their consciousness is at, that determines what their next birth will be. So, if my consciousness is absorbed in material desire, then I will take on a form to try to pursue those desires again. And in this way, I wake up back in the same world. But if I've let go of my desires for this material realm, if I've let go of the selfishness that lies at the core of those material desires, if I say I'm more interested in divine love, if my mind has been captivated by the name, the form, the qualities, and the pastimes of God, then that's where I go. Then I return to God. And I'm given the form that I need in order to carry out love in the way that I'm feeling it for God. And so these sacred texts we're talking about, it's not just these girls that love Krishna. His friends love him. His parents love him. Whatever the variety of your particular love, he's able to reciprocate that in a perfect way. And one can live in eternity in that consciousness like that. Does that answer your question? Something more? Follow up?
Thank you. I guess I was looking more for a more detailed path that the soul takes. Does it go somewhere for a few days? Does it go right to Godhead? How long until reincarnate? Like, is there some technical, more detailed steps?
There are some. But this is pretty esoteric stuff. Okay. There are some statements that say that where does Krishna exist, where this perfect love, intimate love is shared? It's a realm beyond this universe called Goloka Vrindavan. And some rare times in the history of a universe, You can measure it, how many years it'll be before the universe goes through a cycle of creation, maintenance, and finally destruction. And in a long history, Krishna appears within this world. But he brings that Goloka Vrindavan with him. That place, the spiritual realm, manifests within this material realm, and Krishna enters. And the same things he does there, he does here. And so in the spiritual sky is called Goloka Vrindavan. And when Goloka Vrindavan enters into the material realm, it's called Gokula Vrindavan. And it's said that when you've pursued this kind of intimate love, that the first place you take birth is in Gokula Vrindavan. And there you begin to learn how to serve with the kind of love that you have. And then after that, you go to the Goloka Vrindavan. So there's that, But otherwise, it's what you expect. It's the consciousness, the soul travels, bringing the mind with it into the womb of the next mother, right? And that may be as a human, or that may be as an animal, or in some kind of seed form. It may even be a plant, but let's say human, right? So in other words, you bring your mind with you, like you bring a computer with you. You bring your mind with you, but there's some files deleted or files sent deep down into the memory, and you take birth again. And in the birth that you just died from, you had a certain identity. I'm a man. I'm an American. I'm black. I'm white. Whatever it is, you're very convinced that that's who I am. Then you enter the womb of another mother, and you come out and you embrace a whole nother identity. I'm a woman. I'm Chinese. I'm whatever I am, and you're just as convinced that that's who I am. Right? These are my people. This is my nation, etc., etc. So we go through that again and again. So there's descriptions of what it's like, to live that life, to be in the womb, to be born, to come out, to wake up. These texts, they describe this in detail, and they encourage us, transcend this, go beyond this. There's more potential for you. Today I had an unusual experience. I was on one bank of the Ganges River in a very quiet place. It's an idyllic place. We were underneath a banyan tree, beautiful banyan tree, on a little cliff, maybe about 20 feet. Below it is a sandy beach, and the river is flowing there. And we're sitting beneath that tree, and we're reading some sacred text and discussing. Having it was so nice, just so perfect, picture perfect, to sit under a tree with other spiritual people and sharing thoughts on the sacred text, and really, it was wonderful. And then I went down onto the beach, and I bathed in the Ganga, right? You immerse yourself 3 times. 1, 2. You feel the purification of that sacred river. I chanted Gayatri mantra in the water, come out of the water. I'm drying off and getting dressed again. And then I see on the other side, there's some people swimming. And then we recognize that actually 2 of them are struggling. There's maybe about 10 people there. And then we say, okay, they're helping them. They got one out of the water. But the other one, they didn't get him out of the water. And we watch, and there's nothing we could do. We were very far away, and there's an incredibly powerful current. Even if we tried, we would have never gotten to him. And I think his friends didn't know how to swim. And so they were just all full of anxiety and yelling, and you could see him struggling. And then eventually saw he's not going to make it. And all we could do is watch. Yeah. And then you think, all that we could really do is pray. So we all, in our own way, were chanting our mantras and saying our prayers. And this soul is passing away in a most sacred place, leaving his body in a holy river with yogis chanting mantras or saying prayers for their benefit. In one sense, what looked like a very dark moment may have been the brightest moment in his evolution through many, many bodies. I can't say exactly what his destination was or what his... I'd imagine he experienced great fear. But even that, we don't know. Right? It may have been in that moment the goddess Ganga appeared to him and said, I'm here for you. I don't know. You know. But what I do know is that we've all been going through these cycles of birth and death, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And what I do know is we're all going to meet that moment when we exit this body. And what I do know is that we can leave in many different states of consciousness. When Krishna said that verse, that whatever you remember at the time of death, that determines your next destination. In the next verse, he says, Tasmat. Therefore, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Therefore, at all times, Mam anusmara. Always remember me. Right? Mam anusmara. Right? So this is the yogi is able to direct where their thoughts go, direct where their memory goes, direct what their meditation will be. Right? And so if we choose to do that, we allow our minds to go in so many ridiculous, silly distractions and confusing places. We get caught up in things that aren't important. We waste hours and hours and hours of our lives. And there's no satisfaction in it. There's no real joy in it. There's no real lasting satisfaction in it. But those that are beginning to taste spirit, they find a deep satisfaction in it. And the more that our mind can go in that direction, the more that we can absorb the mind in it, the more that mamanusmara, we can keep this in our mind, then we know that when that potentially most frightening moment in our existence arises, we'll be prepared for it. And we can pass through it fearlessly. I've seen people fearlessly enter into death, you know. I was sharing another story the other night. I won't tell the whole story. But one man that was like a mentor to me, when he passed away, these were his last words. He said, so much love, so much love, so much love and gratitude in my heart. Those are his last words. So think of that, right? So that journey, it's potentially the most frightening experience we can have, where everything that we know and are familiar with and have developed some attachment to is being torn from us by nature, by the force of time. And we realize that force of time is just like at a certain point, this person realized the power of this river is more powerful than me. It's going to pull me and there's nothing I can do. We're all going to feel at a certain point the power of time is more powerful than me. It's going to pull me out of this body and take me somewhere and I have no control over it. Right? But someone that has that, someone in that situation where they realize I have no more material stability, there's nothing of this world I can hang on to. When they're hanging on to the spirit, that is actually the only thing that is truly stable. And when they have that stable connection, they can pass through any kind of change in this world, even the change of one body to another, and be able to say, so much love and gratitude in my heart, and whew, take on the most auspicious next destination. Is that okay? Thank you for the question. Other questions? Is there a question about the Ganga? Yeah.
Can you give a brief description of why the Ganga is so important, especially in our lineage?
Ganga is important to all of the lineages that grow out of the Vedic texts. But to tell you why the Ganga is so important, I'm going to have to ask everyone here, are you ready to hear some very far out stuff? Or are you going to get all skeptical and say, no, that's impossible? Right? I need you to open up your minds. I need you to be willing. You've heard the term Mahatma before, yes? Like Mahatma Gandhi? Mahatma wasn't his first name. Mahatma was like what's the term? It was like a term of respect, you could say, of glorification. Maha means great. It could mean big. It could mean broad. Atma means soul. So it's a way of saying he was a great soul, Mahatma Gandhi. But you also, Maha can mean big or broad. And Atma can also refer to the mind. So Mahatma can also mean someone who's very broad-minded, right? So I'm going to ask you to be very broad-minded. I'm going to ask you to consider that things that I might not have considered possible might be possible. Because we're going to talk about let me put it this way. Is there, in any culture, a creation story, a story of how everything, this universe was created? Is there any story, whether it's religious or spiritual or entirely mechanical and mechanistic and atheistic, is there any theory that isn't completely far out? And when I look at them, there's not one that's not completely far out. Because even if you look at the idea of, like, say, the Big Bang, there was an infinitesimal amount of energy that had some unbelievably amount of density to it and weight, and it exploded. We're not exactly told what made it explode. We're not exactly told where it came from, but it exploded, and it turned into this world where there's incredible balance and incredible fine-tuning, and everywhere you look is like incredible design. Right? Human body, right? It can reproduce and create more of these incredible machines. You know, you cut it and then it starts to fix itself. You put food in it, it finds its own way to digest it and keep us going. Yeah, we could go on and on. Just the eyeball is like insane, like what that thing is. It's far more advanced than the most advanced camera that we make. You know, the brain is far beyond what a computer is. It's like it just went bang and it all happened. Can we admit that that's pretty far out, everyone? Yes. Okay, so there's other far out stories about how the world was created and so on. And so this story is going to ask you to consider something very far out. All right, we ready for this? So the Ganga, why is this river so important? There's many reasons why it's important, but let's tell the history of it as it's told in the Puranas, these ancient texts. They say that this river, what we see, like, where does the Ganga start? Most people would say, well, you go up to Gangotri, right? You walk high enough into these mountains, and there's a big ice, you know, I don't know, iceberg, but what do they call it? Like, huh? Glacier. Yeah, thank you. There's like glaciers, big, huge glacier up there. And the water comes from that glacier. That's the source of the river. But if you read Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, say, no, that's just like externally the source. But actually, this river doesn't flow just from the top of that mountain down to the Bay of Bengal. This river flows throughout the universe. How did that happen? How much of the story to tell? Tell all of it? There was... Okay, so now we get into the far out stuff. You ready? You've seen Star Wars before? Star Wars? I never have, actually. Somehow I've never seen it. But from what I hear, it's kind of like a Star Wars kind of thing. You have the Devas. These are representatives of Lord Vishnu. They're not perfect people, but they're incredible people. And they have a sense that I have a duty to Lord Vishnu, who's the entire universe is emanating from. He's the root of all existence. And although we have some separate interests in the world, we see ourselves as servants of Lord Vishnu. And then those are the Devas or the Suras. And then on the other team, you have the Asuras, the demons. They are dead set against Vishnu. And they and there's a competition for control of the universe between the two. And for some time, well, Vishnu comes and takes out the heads of the Asuras 2 times. in different ways. One time he does it as Lord Narasimhadev. He kills Hiranyakashipu. Another time he does it as Lord Ram. He kills Ravana. Right? So they have issues with Vishnu. Vishnu appearing in different ways, and they think Vishnu is the problem. We're the enemies of Lord Vishnu. We need to take him out. And they're competing with the Devas for control of the universe. They've gone a long time before they've won. And then someone's born in their dynasty. And his name is Bali. And Bali is powerful. Now, side note, within this dynasty of demons who raise their children to carry on with the same, Vishnu is the enemy mentality, there was a beautiful devotee of Vishnu born into that family. That's a whole nother big story. And there's so much to learn. He actually becomes, sometimes it said he becomes the greatest devotee. His name was Prahlad. His grandson is Bali. So Bali is born as a demon. Bali's born as the king of the demons. Bali fights against the Devas and is so powerful that he takes universal control back from the Devas. Right? And they have to run and hide. Now they've got control of the universe. Big deal, right? This background story. Now the mother of the Devas, Aditi, she's praying to Lord Vishnu. Please come, and my sons are your devotees. But the demons have taken over. We're dependent on you to come back and restore them to their rightful positions. Vishnu responds to her prayers, saying, not only will I take care of this, I will take birth as your son, and I will take care of it. So he takes birth, and the name of that avatar is Vamanadev, sometimes called Upendra, sometimes called Trivikrama, and we'll get there why he's called that. He's born as a dwarf, but like beautiful dwarf. I think part of his size is part of what made him so adorable and attractive. And he's a brahmachari. He's like a celibate monk, little boy, dwarf. It means they used to dress in a deer skin, and they'd have this kusha grass belt and carry an umbrella and a begging pot. He's kind of like the perfect brahmachari. And when he appears before you, you're like, oh, he's so beautiful to look at. And he comes to Bali. And when he comes to Bali, Bali's natural response, because even though he's a demon, he's dharmic. They understand how the laws of the universe works. They understand that when a beggar comes, when a brahmachari comes, when a monk comes, if you satisfy them, you gain more power. That's the laws of karma. And that's how, so they manipulate those laws to get their power. So he's accustomed that when he sees a monk like this, and especially you could tell this is no ordinary monk, he's effulgent. If I give to him, this will be, auspicious. I'll get more power. So the monk comes and Bali says to him, what can I give you? Now at that moment, his guru is there. His guru is named Shukracharya. This is the guru of the demons. Okay, everybody still with me? With me, everybody? Yes? Okay. Now he's the guru of the demons. This means now that the demons have taken over the universe, he's in a good position, right? He's the advisor to the team that's in charge. And he, with his mystic potency, can see this is not an ordinary boy. This is Lord Vishnu himself. And I'm telling you something. He's not here just to be nice. He's here to take everything back. Everything that we fought for. After so many centuries and centuries and centuries of us being out of control, we finally have control back. You've won it all back. Don't give it all away. He's going to ask you to take it all back. don't do it. Now, Bali says, now this is the thing. Bali was born as a demon, yes? But he was also the grandson of Prahlad. So inside him, there was some devotional inclination. You understand? And when he saw the form of Lord Vishnu as this little boy dwarf, something inside him melted. And he wanted to satisfy Lord Vishnu. So when his guru said, this is Lord Vishnu in disguise, don't do it, he did what people generally are advised not to do. He told his guru, I'm doing it anyway. I don't care what you say. I'm going to do this. It's the right thing to do. And he says to Vamanadev, please ask me what you wish, and I'll be happy to grant it to you. Okay? That was a big move right there. And it's an instruction, an ancient instruction about that the disciple has the right to reject the guru if the guru is giving them the wrong type of instruction, particularly serve God. And then the guru says, don't do it. You need a new guru. So he said, I'm not going to listen to you. And he said, what would you like? So now this effulgent, beautiful little beggar monk says to him, I want 3 steps of land, 3 paces of land, right? Measured out by 3 paces, 3 steps. And Bali says, I could give you so much more. I could give you whatever you desire. I control the universe. I could give you a planet if you wish. Why are you asking for just 3 steps? Good question, right? And especially when you're a dwarf, your steps are like shorter than most people. Why only 3 steps? Would you like to hear the answer? This answer, if you really take this in, this might be something you want to commit to memory. Anyone want to try that? Commit this to memory? Because you could carry this for the rest of your life. This will be meaningful for you. You can carry this with you for the rest of your life. It can give you power, good power. Power to gain control of your own self, right? That's the real conquering we need to do in this world. You ready? He said, all that there is within the entire universe to satisfy the senses is not enough to satisfy the senses of someone whose senses are uncontrolled. I'll say it again. You ready? All that there is within the entire universe to satisfy the senses is not enough to satisfy one whose senses are uncontrolled. No matter what you get to satisfy your senses, we think, I'm going to get it and then I'm going to be satisfied. But we get it, we consume it, and what do we want? More of it. We're never satisfied. It's like saying, I'm going to satisfy the fire by pouring gasoline in it, and then it's not going to burn anymore. No, it's going to burn more. Right? So this was his answer. I'm only asking for 3 steps of land. If I can't be satisfied with that, then I can't be satisfied with anything. I want 3 steps of land. He says, okay, take them. His first step went around the entire planet. Okay, that's why I'm saying you're going to have to stretch your mind, right? How can one step go around the entire planet? What are we picturing? His leg got really long? I don't know exactly how he did it, but he did it. Okay? It may be some kind of interdimensional thing. I'm not sure. Okay? Then everyone's like, whoa. You know, you could imagine his guru's like, you see? I told you. That's one planet. Watch what happens next. The next step, his foot cracked the shell of the universe. And the universe is said to be floating in water. The water started to come in. And it bathed the foot of Lord Vishnu as it's coming in. Now, if you go to any of these temples, they bathe the deities every day. You've seen this before? You go to the Shiva Lingam and they're bathing. If you come at the right time in a temple, sometimes you can't see it in the temple or only on certain holidays. Those that were here for the big festival yesterday, We saw the deity, the form of Sri Chaitanya was being bathed like this. And then the water that comes out is considered very auspicious. You put it on your head, it can purify. It's called the Charnamrit, the nectar that from the feet. So now this Charnamrit is coming down into the universe. It's bathing Lord Vishnu's feet, and it's coming down. Now, I like to say, when I look at this, look around you right now. See what's happening. There's a team that's serving out the prasadam. Every one of them is convinced that by tasting that prasadam, anybody that eats it will have tremendous spiritual benefit, because it's not ordinary food. It's food that's been cooked with bhakti, offered to God with bhakti. Then there's one team. They're here to serve. There was another team that cooked it. There was another team that raised the money to buy it. So there's 3 teams already. Now there's a team that's washing all the pots. So the pot washers, we offer you our gratitude. Thank you, pot washers in there. Happily, look how happy they are in there. They're happy to serve. So you have a team that every night comes. How many people want to say, I want to wash 800 plates tonight? It's like, you have to pay people a lot of money for that, and they think this is really, I got to find a better job than this. They're happy to do it for free. There's the 4th team. There's a team that set up all these tents. There's a team that's doing all the kirtans. There's a team that's doing all the sound. There's a team that's doing everybody's laundry. These people are living under very simple conditions. It's a group effort to bring the grace of the holy name and prasad to the world, right? Everybody getting together as a team. Now the Ganga coming down is teamwork, right? First it's Lord Vishnu getting involved. Crack. My grace is coming down. Now there's a problem. Water pressure, right? If the universe cracks and this universal water is coming down, it's like it's got an incredible weight as it's coming down in the universe. How it'll wipe out a planet. How can it be sustained? Ooh. Good to see you. Lord Shiva says, I'll be part of the team. I can take this on. And he says it can come down on my head. Now, on one hand, he's happy to have that water hit his head first. And it's said that his hair is always moist with the moisture of the Ganga on him. There's also the goddess Ganga, right? That she somehow has a special role and responsibility in facilitating this flow of the grace of Lord Vishnu's feet. Not just coming just here, but as it comes down to the different planets. And you can read in a text like Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, the descent of the Ganga from the tip of the universe as it comes down and it hits different places, and then it spreads out into different branches. And then eventually one branch comes to this level of universal strata. And we somehow have the opportunity to benefit from that. So it's kind of like, from a higher perspective, the world that we're in is a dark one. It's a place of pain, it's a place of suffering, it's a place of death, right? We see it wherever we look. But this Ganga coming in is kind of like, sometimes like there's prisons. But sometimes people go in like a priest will go into the prison, or a teacher will go into the prison. I want to volunteer my time in the prison. And I'm going to share what I know to help the prisoners. So Ganga is something like that. It's like, let's go in and let's brighten up that dark place. And let's give people on all the different levels of the stratas of the universe, let's give them the opportunity to experience the grace of the goddess Ganga, the grace of Lord Vishnu. So that's what it is. And somehow people, for centuries, people in India that live far from the Ganga, they would walk for months. That at least one time in their life, they could come to a place like Haridwar or Rishikesh and bathe in these waters, knowing that it's an opportunity to be relieved of lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of accumulated mental impressions and accumulated karma. and be purified. And those that really understand the power of Ganga know that through that, one can fully give their mind and their heart to God, become purified of all of our confusion and all of our mundane attachments. And so if you go to the Ganga and you pray like that, dear Goddess Ganga, many, many lifetimes I've been caught in this cycle. Every birth, I think I'm this or I think I'm that. I become convinced of it, and I become driven by selfishness, not knowing my own inner divine nature of love. I've had enough of that. I don't want that, but still it's stuck in me. Still I have a hard time letting it all go. Dear beautiful Goddess, please relieve me of this burden. Please wash away all of this conditioning so that I can give myself entirely to your Lord, eternally as a servant. If you go and you bathe in the Ganga like this, she will relieve you of this. You know, you have that faith. Have that faith. So, when the Vaiṣṇava sees the Ganga, there's something in the heart that is really moved. This is Lord Vishnu's grace coming down it's the grace of Vishnu, it's the grace of Ganga, it's the grace of Shiva, all coming together as a team to deliver some special grace that otherwise I would have no access to. It would be beyond my reach. I don't deserve it. That's why it's called prasad. It's called mercy. It's something that we haven't earned, but it's a chance. You know, it's a chance for the prisoners to become free. Right? We're all prisoners of our minds and all the conditioning in our mind. And this is an opportunity. Beautiful Ganga Devi coming down. Thank you for the question. Third, very interesting. Okay, shall we continue with the story? The third step, he said, I don't have anything left except my own head. You please put the third step right here on my head. Like that. That was his act of surrender, his act of full surrender. Not only the whole universe, if that's what you want, you could have it. You could also have my head too. Put your foot here, please. The story goes, there's more to the story than that. But Bali becomes a really beautiful character. Really a lot to learn. The Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the most precious of all of these sacred texts because it's meant to speak to people on the highest level of evolution. A lot of the texts are spoken by people that were more materialistic. The questioner has materialistic motives. But in the Bhagavatam, there's someone asking questions and there's someone giving answers. Who is asking the questions? Maharaj Parikshit, right? He was a king and he was a pure Vaishnava. He's a pure bhakti yogi. He made one mistake. One day he was out walking through the forest. He became exhausted. It was hot. He was thirsty. Have you ever gotten that point where you get like really hungry and sometimes they call you get hangry? Hangry? Anyone of you ever been hangry before? He's not like us, but it was something like that. He wasn't himself. And he came upon an ashram of a sadhu, a yogi. Have any of you ever wandered up these hills and come across a cave with a sadhu in it? You can still see this to this day. I was in one of these caves just a couple weeks ago. He came across a sage who was sitting in front of his cave, his little ashram there. And he said, can you please help me? I'm very thirsty. Can you give me some water? And the sage didn't budge. But why didn't he budge? He was in samadhi. He didn't even understand he was being asked a question. And normally, Maharaj Parikshit, he would be fully respectful to any such sage or sadhu. But because he was so tired and thirsty, he was kind of like a little dizzy maybe. And he took it as an insult. This person's ignoring me. And what he did was, there was a dead snake lying on the ground. And he reached with the bow that he carries. He reached out, he picked up the dead snake, and he wrapped it around the neck of the sadhu like a garland. It was a bit of an insult like that. Okay, this is your level of hospitality. Well, let me give you a garland. Here Here's my hospitality. So it's something like that, right? Now, that sage had a son named Shringi. And that was a young boy, but with a lot of mystic power. And there's a problem when you give power to someone who's not mature, right? Some of our politicians may be like that. They act like children. Anybody seen this before? But they've got a lot of power. And so they can create a lot of trouble. And so this boy, he was able to mystically understand that his father had been insulted in this way by the king. He couldn't understand that the king did this in a moment, an uncharacteristic moment. That the king was a great king. That the king was a great bhakti yogi. That it was because of this king that his father and the other sages lived in peace. But feeling this intolerable insult, he cursed the king that he would die in 7 days. When the father understood what happened, he's like, "What did you do?" So maybe he put a dead snake on me. He didn't understand. Whatever. He's a wonderful king. We should learn to forgive. This is a slight thing. What you've done is a horrible thing. But he thought, but my son's power is so strong that I need to get a message to the king that he's going to die in 7 days. So the message was brought to the king. Now, how did the king respond? Would you like to know? He didn't respond like the boy, with anger, with frustration, lashing out, fighting back. He said, "What have I done? I knew I did something wrong then. And now I'm getting the results of it. I accept the results." It's said that he was such a powerful bhakti yogi that he could have countered the curse. But he said, "I'll accept it. I'm due this. I will take the last 7 days of my life and I'll use them in the best way possible." He went to the bank of the river. And all the leaders, the sages, they all knew Maharaj Parikshit, a great advanced bhakti yogi, is going to die in 7 days. We should all come together. Just like this poor person that was dying in the river that I saw today. In one sense, I felt a deep sense of sorrow for him. But in another sense, I'm saying he's dying in the Ganges River. And there's all these bhakti yogis that their grace is focused on him, their prayers for him. This is unique. So like this, all these sages had gathered, and even different sages from throughout the universe came. What I sometimes call the A-list sages. Vyasa was there. Vyasadeva himself, and a whole list of great sages. Now the king is here, fearlessly saying, "I'm going to die in 7 days. I accept it. Please help me understand how to spend this time in the most valuable way." This is the right way to approach it, yes? Who's going to speak to him? Who's going to instruct him? Who's going to serve as guru? So many super qualified sages. And just at that moment, someone entered the scene. If only we could see a movie of this. I would love to see a movie of this. He was the son of the great sage Vyasadeva. He was a 16-year-old boy. He was very beautiful, but he was the deepest mystic. He was so deeply mystical and so deeply absorbed in spirit that he was largely out of touch with the material world. He was naked. His face, his beautiful hair was scattered across his face. And everybody, just by looking at him, you could understand he's not of this world. He's fully beyond any material attachment, any material conditioning. He's on another level. The glories of this sage, Shukadeva Goswami, are sung in the Vedic texts. There's one incident that's spoken to show just how otherworldly he was. Would you like to hear that? This is shared just to give us a clue. That he left, Vyasadeva wanted to do all of the Vedic rituals for him. He was like, "I'm not interested in these rituals. I'm walking away from home." He's 16 years old. He's walking naked away from home just to disappear. And his father, the great sage Vyasadeva, the one who wrote all the Vedic literatures, he's chasing after him saying, wait, my son, wait. And as Shukadeva Goswami is walking, he passes by a pond. And in that pond, there's teenage girls bathing naked in the water. And as he walks by, they just watch him go. Just kind of a bit captured by his spiritual aura, I suppose you could say. And then Vyasadeva comes. And as Vyasadev's coming, the girls see this great sage Vyas, and they all begin to cover themselves up. And then Vyasadev's going to say, hold it. He stops and he asks the girls, my son, who's a 16-year-old boy, he was walking past here, and you saw him and you just watched him go. And then when I come by, you felt you needed to cover yourself up. Why did you cover yourself when I came? And you didn't when he walked by. And they said, we can just look at him, and there's no doubt that he's not in this mentality, boy, girl, man, woman. He's so far beyond that. We just could sense it. You know? So this is just one example of like how he was obviously, just the way that he carried himself in his presence, he was like, he's beyond this world. Everyone could sense it. And as he enters the scene, he's being followed by women and children that are just kind of captivated by his presence. And as he enters that arena, every one of those sages, including his father, they all say, you're the one to speak. You speak to the king and you help him understand how to best spend this time. They give him an elevated seat. He sits down. The king bows before him. And the king asks the question. This question is the question that is the spark that ignites the most important of all the spiritual texts, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Would you like to know what the question is? What is the duty of a person who is about to die? Right? That's what he asks. Tell me what I'm to do now. I'm about to die. I have 7 days and 7 nights left to live. What am I to do? We won't be telling the answer tonight. You'll have to go and buy the book. No. What he answers is, he says that no matter what the condition, that one should chant the names of God, hear the glories of God. This is what one's meant to do with their time. So he says, then speak to me. He spends 7 days and 7 nights explaining the beauty, the power, the glory of bhakti and ultimately of Sri Krishna. Maharaj Pariksit sits there and he hears and he asks beautiful questions and he gets the most wonderful answers. The reason I brought this up is I said, because in this text, the person asking the questions has no material motive whatsoever. He doesn't even have a motive for moksha. He doesn't even have a motive to escape the sufferings of this world. So he's the most qualified questioner. And Shukadeva Goswami is the most qualified speaker to answer the questions. And therefore, in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, we're going to get the most elevated discussion. More elevated than even in the other Puranas. More elevated than even in the Upanishads. The churned nectar of the nectar of the nectar of the Vedas. When the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam opens up, before it opens up with a story, it's the 3 verses are spoken. Kind of like a there's a term for it, but it's like a declaration of just how special this text is. It opens up by saying that this text is entirely devoted to glorifying Sri Krishna, who is the origin of everything. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna, who is Vasudeva. Janmad Yasya Taha. It reaches back into the Vedanta Sutra and says, when the Vedanta Sutra spoke about the absolute truth, Brahman, it says Brahman is that from which everything comes. The absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. Here it says, who is that person that is that Pada Brahman. It's Sri Krishna. And then it goes to tie the form of Krishna to all the Vedic glorifications of the Supreme. So where the other texts were less clear about exactly who the origin of everything was, who the absolute truth is, this text is going to tell you explicitly. It's going to be in no unclear language. That's Sri Krishna. Then it says, in this text, there's going to be no cheating going on. Now, what does that mean? It's saying that the other Vedic text, there's cheating going on? Yes, in a sense. Because the way that the other Vedic texts speak is that whatever step you're on in your evolution is going to tell you to take that next step, and it's going to glorify that next step as if it's the best thing you can be doing. So there you'll hear doing the karma rituals to get the things of this world. This will make you happy. The Vedic texts are saying this will give you happiness. But then the Upanishads come along and they say that won't give you the real happiness. Letting go of the things of this world, walking away from the world, that's going to give you the real happiness. But ultimately, the highest teachers are saying even finding peace by walking away from the world is not delivering you to the true happiness. The true happiness, the Atma suprasidity, the complete satisfaction of the self is found in divine love, is found in bhakti. And so therefore it says this text, there'll be no cheating. I'm not going to promise you that something's the highest thing. I'm going to deliver to you explicitly what the highest thing is. Sometimes I use this example. Like sometimes maybe someone is born, I'm from New York and a lot of families from India come to America, right? And the parents, why are the parents doing it? Because they're convinced that their children will have a chance for a more prosperous life there. But if you're telling a 4-year-old child or a 5-year-old child, we're moving away from here to land far away, they're going to be like, I don't want to go. This is where my friends are. True? But if the parents say, but you can live a more prosperous life there, you will have a better job, more opportunities, it means nothing to the child because their understanding is not yet very well developed. Yes? So what does the parents say? They promise something lower, making it sound like it's very higher. So they say, well, if we move to America, you'll be able to go to Disneyland. Right? And then the child's, really? Yes, Disneyland is there. Okay, I'll go. Right? Now, the parents know Disneyland is just a little thing. It's not so important. But it's enough to get the child to make the next step. So similarly, all the promises of karma kanda, you do these rituals, you'll get rain, you'll get birth in a high family, you'll get beauty, you'll get wealth, you'll get birth on the higher planets. It's just a promise to take a next step up. But moksha is higher than that. And ultimately, bhakti, divine love, is the highest thing. So in this book, we're just going to talk about the divine love. We're not going to promise you anything else is going to be the highest thing. And then it says that this is the cream, not just the cream, but the shadam, the cream of the cream. They say this in French, right? Crème de la crème. Same thing. You take the cream and then you say it's the cream of all the Vedic literature, but then you churn it more and you get the cream of the cream. This Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the cream of all the Vedic literature. It's the ripened fruit of the Vedic tree, right? You may take another fruit off of it. You may take the Vedas, you may take the Upanishads, Mahabharata even, the different Puranas, but it's not fully ripe until you get to the Bhagavatam. That's the ripened fruit of the Vedic tree. So all of these things are said to help us understand now Vyasadeva is revealing the highest truths. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. That's where we get all of these beautiful instructions. All these highest instructions about what brings that Atma suprasidity, the highest, the deepest, the complete satisfaction of the self. And then we hear all of Krishna's pastimes in there. 90 chapters of Krishna's pastimes is the culmination. And even those, if you churn that, you get to the Rasa Lila, Krishna and his pastimes with the beautiful, beautiful devoted gopis. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Nothing like it in the world. We have time maybe for one or two more questions before we end this beautiful night. It's been such a joy. Yes, sir, in the back. We'll send the microphone.
Hello, good evening. Pranam. In Śrīmad Bhagavad Gītā, God Himself says, when we have to come to me, you have to follow all the path. That is Karam Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Gyan Yoga, and one more yoga I am not remembering. So, what should I mean? Is it Śrīmad Bhagavad Gita is superior than Śrīmad Bhagavatam, or Bhagavatam is superior than Śrīmad Bhagavad Gita?
What a good question. So many paths of yoga are described in Bhagavad Gita. All that you said. Dhyana yoga, which we could call Ashtanga yoga, is 6th chapter, right? Karma yoga, first 6 chapters speak a lot about karma yoga, right? Jnana is discussed. 12th chapter, there's a question about jnana. Or there's also, Krishna speaks, Ahunam janmana ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. This is significant. There's all different kind of instructions about how one can leave their body at the certain astrological moments and different ways of meditating. And there's a lot discussed in Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna describes Dhyana yoga or Ashtanga yoga to Arjuna, what does Arjuna say? I don't think I can do this yoga because the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. And Krishna responds, that's okay. You can still be a yogi. And actually, he says, Yogi nam api sarvesham, of all the different varieties of yogis, matgaten antar atmana, that one who abides with me and meditates on me deep within, Shradhavan, with faith, Bhajateyo mam, worships me, Same yukta tamo mataha, that person is most connected to me in yoga. So the one that's thinking of, this is bhakti, right? Now at the end of all of this, it's a comparative study. All of these paths, Bhagavad Gita is saying they're valid, they're real, they work. But at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, the last instruction Krishna gives to Arjuna, this is text 1866. Sarva dharmam parityaja. We've been talking about a lot of different types of dharma, a lot of different paths. Arjuna, take them all and abandon them all. Sarva, all of them. Sarva dharma parityaja. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. And do one thing. Just surrender unto me. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yasya namasuchaha. Don't have any fear. Give your life entirely to me. Take shelter entirely in me, and you can set all the other dharmas aside. So in a sense, what he's saying is, through bhakti, you achieve the goal of all of them. And that's where Śrīmad Bhāgavatam picks up. In Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, you have a group of sages who all practice different types of yoga or dharmas. They're all trying to work together, but they feel they're not getting anywhere. And so they turn to the sage amongst them that they feel is the most, that they say to him, O Sutta Goswami, amongst all of the sages, you are senior, but also you better than anyone understand the essence of all of the Vedic texts, of all of Vedanta. You've been especially blessed by your gurus because you were Saumya, you were the gentle disciple, you received special blessings to understand everything. You please tell us what brings the highest good to all mankind, what delivers the Atma Suprasiddhi, the complete satisfaction of the self. And his answer is Savai Pungsa Paro Dharmo. Savai Pungsa, for all of humanity, Paro Dharmo, the highest Dharma. Yato Bhaktir Adhoksaja is the offering of love, the offering of bhakti in connection to Adhoksaja, the supreme who's beyond the realm of our senses. Ahoitiki apratiyata. Such devotion must be offered without any personal motive and uninterrupted, unmotivated and uninterrupted, yatma suprasiditi, in order to completely satisfy the self. So, in different ages, different methods were effective. In the Satya Yuga, Dhyana Yoga, this was recommended. In Treta Yuga, it was the Vedic rituals and yagna. In Dwapara Yuga. And then in the Treta Yuga, the temple worship. In the Kali Yuga, the Sankirtan, right? Going on in the chanting of these names with bhakti. This is the method. But bhakti is the very essence of the self. And so these other paths, if you do Ashtanga yoga, you settle the mind. You go into samadhi, and layers of lifetimes of mental impressions disintegrate in that samadhi. In a sense, now you're free. And from that place, if you read Bhagavad Gītā, 6th chapter, then you begin to see Krishna in your own heart and everywhere. So from that place, you come to bhakti. When you achieve the goal of jnana, you attain jnana. Bahunam janmana ante, at the end of many births and deaths of trying to achieve jnana, jnanavan, one who possesses jnana, mam prapadyante. Krishna says they surrender unto me. 12th chapter, he also says that the jnana yogi can eventually come to him. Right? Karma yoga, what does he say? Tat karusha mad arpanam. Do all that you do as an offering unto me. Right? And then do it with devotion. Right? When he's telling Arjuna, you fight, this was the verse we were talking about earlier. Whatever you meditate on when you die, that's where you go. Therefore, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, at all times, mam anusmara, always remember me, yudyacha, and at the same time fight. So he's saying you do your karmic duty, but you do it remembering me. You do your karma infused with bhakti. So always Gita is taking us to bhakti. But then Vyas, after writing the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata with Bhagavad Gita, and all the Puranas, he's feeling dissatisfied. He's feeling I haven't quite, something's incomplete. And then Narada tells him it's because you haven't sufficiently presented and glorified the Bhagavad Dharma, the bhakti offered to Bhagavan. He said, you've done some wonderful things. You've written wonderful books. Even Mahabharata is especially wonderful. It has the Bhagavad Gita in it, which points one to bhakti. But you haven't been explicit enough. Now you need to establish bhakti as the full evolution of spirit, and you need to give the pastimes of Sri Krishna. He says that even this liberation, if it doesn't have devotion in it, he says, na shobha, then there's no beauty in it. Na shobha. So all of these paths are beautiful. All of these paths, we respect the different yogis on these different paths. But Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, ultimately they all lead to him through bhakti, ultimately. Right? Thank you all so much. It's been a wonderful evening here with you. I wish you all a happy Holi. Please enjoy the prasadam, enjoy the Kirtan. If you're interested in more talks like this at 9 a.m., I'm here every morning in the hall speaking, giving talks on this. My friend Yogi Charu, giving beautiful asana and meditation classes at 8 a.m. So 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And otherwise, please enjoy yourself here tonight. If you would like to connect with the previous Q&As or future ones, or connect with other talks I give, Gabriella here can connect you with that. I thank you all so very much. Hari Om Tat Sat.